if you change your state of consciousness, if you begin to act from the feeling of having already won, your entire world must rearrange itself to match this new state. I tell you now with absolute certainty, that assumption hardens into fact. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled and persist in this assumption, despite what your senses tell you, despite what others may say, despite what appears to be true in the world of shadows, your assumption will harden into fact. This is not hope, this is law. Consider the nature of time as most people understand it. They believe that first they must work hard, then struggle, then perhaps, if they are lucky, they might achieve their desire. But I tell you that this is backwards. In the realm of imagination, which is the only reality, your desire already exists. Time is nothing more than the unfolding of states of consciousness. When you enter the state of having already won, time becomes your servant, arranging events and circumstances to match your inner conviction. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the secret. Not the thought of it, not the hope for it, but the actual feeling of already having it. This feeling must become so real, so natural to you, that you can no longer imagine yourself without your desire fulfilled. When you reach this state, when acting like you have already won becomes as natural as breathing, then the outer world has no choice but to conform to your inner conviction. But I must warn you, dear friends, that the world will test your conviction. The moment you begin to assume that you have already won, the moment you begin to feel yourself into this new state, the outer world may seem to contradict your assumption. This is the test. This is where most people fail. They allow the evidence of their senses to talk them out of their assumption. They allow the opinions of others to shake their faith. They allow temporary setbacks to convince them that their method is not working. I tell you now that these apparent contradictions are nothing more than the dying gasp of your old state of consciousness. When you have lived in poverty consciousness and suddenly begin to assume wealth. When you have lived in loneliness and suddenly begin to assume love. When you have lived in failure and suddenly begin to assume success. There will be a period where the outer world still reflects your old state, while your new state is taking root. This is why persistence is absolutely essential. You must continue to act like you have already won. Continue to feel the reality of your fulfilled desire. Continue to assume that what you want is already yours, regardless of what appears to be happening in the outer world. The outer world is always lagging behind consciousness. It takes time for your new state to push itself out into manifestation. Think of yourself as an actor upon the stage of life. But unlike the ordinary actor who knows he is merely playing a role, you must become so identified with your desired character that you forget you are acting. If you desire to be wealthy, you must so completely assume the character of a wealthy person that wealth becomes your natural state. If you desire to be loved, you must so completely assume the character of one who is loved that love becomes your natural atmosphere. This is not about deceiving others or putting on a false front. This is about transforming yourself from within. When you truly act like you have already won, when this becomes your natural state, others will sense this and respond accordingly. They will treat you as one who has already won because that is what you have become in consciousness. The Bible tells us, "Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." This transformation happens when you change the conception you hold of yourself. Instead of seeing yourself as one who is seeking success, you must see yourself as one who already possesses success. Instead of seeing yourself as one who needs healing, you must see yourself as one who is already whole and perfect. Your imagination is the divine faculty within you. It is through imagination that God creates. And since you are made in the image of God, it is through imagination that you create as well. When you imagine yourself as already having won, When you feel the reality of this victory, you are using the same creative power that brought the universe into being. But imagination without feeling is powerless. You must not merely think about having your desire. You must feel what it would be like to have it. You must enter into the emotional state of one who has already won. This feeling, this emotional conviction, is the creative force that transforms the invisible into the visible, the imagined into the real. Let me share with you the technique that will make this teaching practical in your life. Each night, as you prepare for sleep, you must enter into a state of drowsiness where the rational mind becomes quiet and the imagination becomes active. In this state, you must construct a scene that implies the fulfillment of your desire. If you desire wealth, imagine yourself living in luxury, feeling the satisfaction of financial security. If you desire love, imagine yourself in the arms of your beloved, feeling completely loved and cherished. The key is not to imagine yourself getting these things in the future, but to imagine yourself already having them now. Feel the reality of it. Make it so vivid, so real that for those few moments, you completely forget about your current circumstances. In that state of forgetfulness of your current conditions and complete absorption in your desired state, you plant the seed that must grow into manifestation. Upon awakening, you must carry this feeling with you throughout your day. You must act like you have already won. This does not mean being boastful or telling everyone about your inner work. It means moving through your day with the quiet confidence, the inner knowing, the natural expectancy of one who has already achieved their desire. Your every action, your every word, your every thought should be consistent with your assumption. If you have assumed wealth, you do not worry about money. If you have assumed love, you do not feel lonely. If you have assumed success, you do not fear failure. You act from the end, from the completion, from the fulfillment of your desire. This is perhaps the most challenging aspect of this teaching because it requires you to live by faith rather than by sight. The world will show you evidence that contradicts your assumption. Your bank account may still show the same numbers. Your relationship status may still appear unchanged. Your business may not yet show signs of success, but you must remain faithful to your assumption. You must continue to act like you have already won. Remember that consciousness is the only reality. Everything else is merely a shadow cast by consciousness. When you change your consciousness, when you begin to assume and act like you have already won, you change the very foundation of your reality. The shadows must then rearrange themselves to match your new state of consciousness. The reason most people fail to manifest their desires is that they act from their current circumstances rather than from their desired end. They allow what is to determine how they feel and act, rather than allowing how they want to feel to determine their actions. They live in the problem rather than in the solution. They identify with their current limitations rather than with their desired fulfillment. But you must be different. You must dare to assume that your desire is already fulfilled. You must dare to act like you have already won, even when everything in your experience seems to contradict this assumption. This is not denial of reality. This is the recognition that consciousness is the only reality and everything else is subject to change. Your desire exists now in the realm of imagination. It is not something you must create. It is something you must appropriate. It is not something you must earn. It is something you must accept. It is not something you must become worthy of. It is something that is already yours by divine right. You need only to assume that it is so and persist in this assumption until it hardens into fact. The feeling of already having your desire must become so natural to you that you cannot imagine being without it. This is what it means to have faith. Faith is not hoping that something will happen. Faith is the conviction that it has already happened. Faith is not trying to convince God to give you what you want. Faith is accepting that God has already given it to you. and it is simply a matter of time before it appears in your experience. When you truly understand this principle, when you truly grasp that acting like you have already won is not positive thinking, but rather the fundamental law of creation, your entire approach to life changes. You stop struggling and start allowing. You stop trying to make things happen and start letting them happen. You stop living in the energy of lack and start living in the energy of fulfillment. This shift in consciousness is immediately felt by everyone around you. People begin to treat you differently because you are different. Opportunities that were previously invisible to you suddenly appear. Resources that you never knew existed become available to you. Doors that were previously closed begin to open. This is not magic. This is the natural result of changing your state of consciousness. But you must understand that this is an inside job. The change must occur within you first. You cannot fake this state. You must actually embody it. You cannot pretend to feel like you have already won while internally doubting and fearing. The feeling must be genuine. The assumption must be complete. The conviction must be absolute. This is why the nightly practice I described is so important. It is in those moments of drowsiness, when the critical mind is quiet, that you can most easily enter into the feeling of the wish fulfilled. It is in those moments that you can most completely assume the state of having already won. Night after night, you must return to this practice, reinforcing your new state of consciousness until it becomes your natural way of being. During the day, you must catch yourself whenever you slip back into the old state. Whenever you find yourself worrying about how your desire will come to pass, whenever you find yourself doubting whether it is possible, whenever you find yourself feeling the lack of what you want, you must immediately redirect your attention to the feeling of already having it. You must return to acting like you have already won. This is not always easy, especially in the beginning. The old patterns of thought and feeling have momentum. They have been reinforced by years of repetition. But with persistence and determination, you can establish new patterns. You can make the feeling of the wish fulfilled your dominant state. You can make acting like you have already won your natural way of being. The beautiful thing about this principle is that it works regardless of what your desire may be. Whether you desire health, wealth, love, success, recognition, or anything else, the principle remains the same. You must assume the feeling of already having it. You must act like you have already won. You must live from the end rather than from the beginning. Your imagination is not bound by the limitations that seem to exist in the physical world. In imagination, you can have anything instantly. You can be anyone you choose to be. You can experience any reality you desire. The only limitations are those you accept in your own mind. When you truly understand the power of imagination, when you truly grasp that imagination creates reality, you realize that you are limited only by what you can conceive and believe. This is why I urge you to think bigger, dream larger, dare to assume states that may seem impossible from your current perspective. God's plan for you is far greater than anything you could possibly imagine with your limited human mind. When you begin to act like you have already won, when you begin to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you align yourself with this divine plan. You become a cooperative factor in your own salvation. But remember, this is not about acquiring things for the sake of having them. This is about becoming who you are meant to be. When you assume the state of having already won, you are not just changing your circumstances. You are transforming yourself. You are evolving into a higher version of yourself. You are fulfilling your divine potential. Every desire that comes to you is a calling from your higher self. It is an invitation to expand, to grow, to become more than you currently are. When you act like you have already won, when you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are answering that call. You are accepting the invitation to step into a larger version of yourself. The world needs you to succeed. The world needs you to win. The world needs you to manifest your desires. Because of your success, you inspire others. Through your victory, you show others what is possible. Through your manifestation, you prove that the divine power exists within every human being. This is not selfishness, this is service. When you dare to assume that you have already won, when you persist in this assumption, despite all appearances to the contrary, you are not only transforming your own life, but contributing to the elevation of human consciousness. You are proving that limitation is an illusion and that every person has the power to create their desired reality. Your success gives others permission to succeed. Your victory encourages others to pursue their own victories. Your manifestation shows others that manifestation is possible. This is why you must not shrink from your desires. This is why you must not settle for less than what your heart truly wants. This is why you must dare to act like you have already won. The technique I am sharing with you tonight is not theory. It is practical wisdom that has been tested and proven throughout the ages. The mystics knew this truth. The great spiritual teachers understood this principle. The saints and sages lived by this law. Now it is your turn to apply this ancient wisdom to your modern life. But knowledge without application is useless. Understanding without implementation changes nothing. You must take what I am sharing with you and make it your own. You must practice this principle daily. You must make acting like you have already won your new way of life. Start tonight. As you lay your head upon your pillow, enter into the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Imagine yourself already living the life you desire. Feel the satisfaction, the joy, the peace of having already achieved your goal. Make it so real that you can taste it, touch it, breathe it, fall asleep in this state of fulfillment. Tomorrow, carry this feeling with you. Act from this state of inner completion. Move through your day with the confidence of one who has already won. Speak with the authority of one who has already achieved. Think with the mindset of one who has already succeeded. Live as though your desire is already a fact in your experience. And persist. No matter what happens, no matter what appears, no matter what others say or think, persist in your assumption. Persist in acting like you have already won. Persist in feeling the reality of your fulfilled desire. Persist until your assumption hardens into fact. Persist until your inner conviction becomes outer manifestation. The power to transform your life lies within you at this very moment. You do not need to wait for better circumstances. You do not need to wait for more knowledge. You do not need to wait for permission from anyone. You can begin right now to act like you have already won. You can begin right now to assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. You can begin right now to live from the end rather than from the beginning. Your imagination is the door between the invisible realm of infinite possibilities and the visible realm of manifested reality. When you learn to use this faculty correctly, when you learn to assume the state of having already won, you become the master of your faith and the captain of your soul. You step into your role as a conscious creator, working in partnership with the divine to bring forth your heart's deepest desires. Remember, you are not trying to get something you do not have. You are not trying to become someone you are not. You are recognizing what you already are in truth. You are accepting what already belongs to you in consciousness. You are allowing what has already been given to you in the invisible realm to become visible in your experience. This night marks the beginning of a new chapter in your life. This night you learn that acting like you have already won is not arrogance, but wisdom. It is not pretense, but truth. It is not fantasy, but the fundamental principle by which all things come into being. From this night forward, you will never again accept lack as your reality. You will never again identify with limitation as your truth. You will never again act from the consciousness of not having. Instead, you will act like you have already won Because in the realm of consciousness, which is the only realm that truly matters, you have already won. Your victory is assured not because of what you will do, but because of what you will assume. Your success is guaranteed not because of how hard you will try, but because of how completely you will believe. The journey from desire to manifestation is not a journey through space or time. It is a journey through states of consciousness. The distance between you and your fulfilled desire is not measured in miles or days, but in the depth of your conviction and the consistency of your assumption. When you truly act like you have already won, when this becomes your natural state, the journey is complete. The work is done. The victory is achieved. What remains is simply the wonderful unfolding of your inner conviction into outer experience. What remains is the delightful discovery of all the ways the universe would orchestrate to bring your assumption into manifestation. What remains is the joy of watching your inner world push itself out to become your outer world. Tonight I leave you with this truth. You have the power to win at the game of life, not by playing harder, but by changing the rules. The rules of the game are not determined by external circumstances, but by internal assumptions. When you assume you have already won, when you act from this conviction, when you persist in this belief, you change the rules in your favor. The game becomes not about struggling to achieve, but about gracefully receiving what has already been achieved in consciousness. Act like you have already won, and watch what happens. Watch as the universe rearranges itself to match your assumption. Watch as opportunities appear that perfectly align with your desires. Watch as people enter your life who can help you manifest your dreams. Watch as circumstances shift in your favor. Watch as the impossible becomes inevitable and the incredible becomes your new reality. Your time of struggle is over if you decide it is over. Your time of lack is finished if you choose to finish it. Your time of limitation is complete if you determine it is complete. The power is in your hands. The choice is yours to make. The victory is yours to claim. All you need to do is act like you have already won, and the winning will take care of itself. This is not the end of our teaching, but the beginning of your practice. This is not the completion of your education, but the commencement of a pure transformation. Take these words not merely as information to be understood, but as power to be applied. Take this principle not merely as a concept to be considered, but as a way of life to be lived. Go forth from this place knowing that you are already victorious. Go forth acting like you have already won. Go forth feeling the reality of your fulfilled desires. Go forth as one who has discovered the secret of creation and learned to apply it for the betterment of your life and the blessing of all humanity. The victory is yours. The win is complete. The manifestation is assured. Act accordingly and watch what happens.